How do I bring up hard things without shaming my spouse? What's up, you guys? Welcome to the Therapy Brothers podcast. I'm Brannon.
I'm Tyler. We're brothers.
We're therapists.
We're not afraid of your questions.
So bring it.
Great question. We're looking forward to getting into this topic. There's been quite a few similar questions this week, but before we do that, we're just going to jump in and share our review for the week. This is titled Healing, and it says, I've been a fan of Brannon's for a while. I've gone through a lot of betrayal in my marriage. I just learned about this podcast, and the first episode I listened to is about whether or not we should hold our spouses accountable for the hurt they have perpetrated on us. This episode was enlightening for me, and I realized I'm finally able to forgive my spouse, even if we don't stay together and he never changes. I only control myself. Brannon, you are the best, and I look forward to learning more and healing more through listening to your podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's great. Thank you. I logged on with Tyler, and he's got Abe Lincoln on his shirt here. Tyler is notorious for his unprofessionalism as a therapist. Like, his clients show up and he's wearing shorts and like flip-flops and stuff.
Hey, I wear shorts and a t-shirt, and currently the working project is I'm trying to get totally out of my office. I'm going to have a canvas tent with GPS coordinates.
You're getting more and more hippie as the days go by. I love it.
That's why they call me the wandering therapist.
As long as you deliver good therapy, it doesn't matter what you're wearing. Hopefully you're wearing something.
You know, it's funny. It's funny because I have actually lost clients over it. But I remember one time this guy came in. He was like a dentist. He'd come straight from work. He's all dressed up, had a shirt and tie on, and he walked in and he looked at me and he's like, "Are you my therapist?" And I said, "I'm Tyler Patrick. If you're here to see Tyler Patrick." And he said, I was. And he said, "Do you dress like this every day for work?" And I said, "Yep, you're looking at it." And I was wearing shorts and a t-shirt, just like basic thing, you know. And he said, I don't think this is going to work for me. And I said, all right. Like, he said, I need someone more professional. And I said, okay, like, let me give you a few referrals. And so we ended the meeting early and he went on somewhere else, but it's worked. We stay busy enough.
It doesn't matter if it's the dead of winter. I mean, he lived in Idaho for a while, and it's shorts every day. It's a little weird. I'm one to talk. I mean, I got Bigfoot on my
shirt. You're wearing Sasquatch on your shirt today. And I think, what does it say? It says
hide and seek world champion. So, yeah. All right.
I don't know how anybody takes us seriously, Brannon.
Hey, if you can't have fun along the way, especially doing the work we do. So, all right. Should we dive in here?
Let's dive in.
Okay. You have a question, I have a question, and we're actually surprised at how much these questions are similar. So we might answer one question by answering the other a little bit. And so do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
Yeah. Why don't we just get both of the questions out and then we can have a discussion.
Okay. So the question I got is, what if your honesty triggers their shame? How do you share honesty when they can't handle it? So that's one of the questions.
And then this one kind of digs into that on a more specific tone, but it says, like many couples, health is always a big topic in my marriage. My husband has a past where he was shamed for his weight, and I don't want to contribute to that shame. However, I really want him to take better care of himself and be more active. What's a good approach for me to bring this topic up with my husband without bringing up the shame?
Oh. So mine is more broad. That one drills it down, but it's pretty much the same question.
Yeah, right? I think principally speaking, we can answer these questions almost the same. We could maybe just use the question I had as the example,
Yeah. So where do you want to start, Tyler? Do you have an answer?
Well, we can always profess to have an answer, right?
What do you mean? We have all the answers.
Yeah, well, this is a good question because I think this actually boils down to I hear this all the time in my practice with other things too, whether it's, my partner does too much fly fishing, or my partner does too much video gaming. And every time I bring it up, then they say that I'm shaming them, or maybe they don't even say they're shaming them, but they just drop into their shame. Right. And it's
Right.
like they shrink, or they play small, or they kind of go into themselves, or they get really, really defensive, which is usually just kind of a cover up for the shame that's going on.
And it really sucks because then you can't really talk about the topic because they're now in their limbic system, their defense mechanism, they're shutting down. And you want to get somewhere with the communication. You want to be able to talk about it, but they're in this fight or flight or freeze mode and in their emotional mind, and it's hard to have a conversation. I want to, Tyler, where this question came from for me was through my Instagram. And it was posted as a comment on a post that I had made. And I want to read a little bit of the post that I made to give some context for where this question came from, because I think this post kind of lays a groundwork a little bit. It says, oftentimes in our relationships, we get stuck in a common dilemma. If I'm honest, they might not like it. Versus if I have a boundary, they could freak out and reject or abandon me. This dilemma leads to selling out your truths and boundaries just to keep them happy. This results in resentment, frustration, broken trust, and disconnection. Avoiding conflict in the short run destroys the relationship in the long run. Remember, it's always better to be honest. Honesty leads to trust. Trust is the foundation of intimacy. So in my post, I'm saying, go be honest with your partner. The answer I got back was this question of, if I'm honest with my partner, he crumbles. So she knows, the person who asked this knows what I said is true, that honesty actually cultivates trust and connection and intimacy in a relationship, but she's really stuck here in a tough position, right?
Yes.
But I do think there are some techniques and some things that she can instigate to give herself a better shot, a better chance. But there's no guarantee. If the partner has very, very limited capacity to have a difficult conversation. So
I think there's some techniques, and I've got a couple ideas myself, but I also think here that part of the answer to these questions has to do with motive as well. And what I mean by that is like, what is your heart saying and doing when you're approaching your partner with these issues? So if you're in essence, if your heart is ready to go to war with them, if you're seeing them as worse than you, or you're seeing yourself as worse than them, or whatever it is, then it's going to come through in more of a shaming way. Whereas if I'm approaching it with a heart that says, I genuinely want to help things go right, there might be some things that I say that my partner's not going to like, but I'm going to be able to at least look myself in the mirror and know I wasn't shaming them, right?
I want to reiterate, though, the point that you just made, which is I totally agree with that. I think you've really got to be honest with yourself as to what you're trying to do. Are you trying to persecute them? Are you trying to manipulate them? Or are you genuinely, like this example of the weight? This is a perfect example. You genuinely care about his well-being. And so you want to bring it up because you're scared for him. You love him. And if that's true, great. You could go to him with that energy. That's the first thing that you got to do, right? But if you're humble and kind and you bring it up with love, you might say the word wait, and he automatically defensive, like, you're attacking me, you're telling me I'm not good enough, So even when your intention is pure and good, you can still trigger your partner's shame, right?
Yes, but it's not. But that's what I'm getting at here, is that I think sometimes this gets flipped around and it actually becomes kind of a coercive tool the other way, which is now I'm not allowed to say anything because anything that I say triggers their shame, which means it's my fault, which is not true.
That is not true.
That's not that's not true at all.
And that's where kind of an unhealthy attachment really starts to take place, which is I'll take on your issue. By avoidance, by walking on eggshells, by now I'm taking on your issue. So now I'm feeling this resentment, frustration, and a lack of honesty and a lack of healthy conflict in our relationship. The reality is if your partner is crumbling about a certain topic, their stuff is coming out. It's not about you. If you really are intentional, right? So I really like what you're saying there, Tyler. So then what? If the partner is very overly sensitive and feels shame by you bringing up certain topics, then what?
Okay, great. So then what I would say is there's a couple of principles here, and you're probably going to add some to what I'm going to say here, Brannon. But if I know that I'm still going to have the conversation, because I need to do that, because number one, I value the relationship enough to say, hey, this is a concern for me, and this is not helpful, and it's not very effective right now, whether it's in our relationship or I'm concerned for you personally. Let's use the weight example. There's different ways to bring that up. And the first principle here that's in my mind is, if I have to bring it up, I should be looking at a principle called softened startup, which is a concept that comes from John Gottman's work. And softened startup says, because I know it's going to be a little bit of a sensitive subject, I'm going to treat it a little bit differently than maybe what's instantly going through my brain. So, there's a difference between going to your husband and saying, you know what, you got a little bit of a spare tire and you probably could stand to lose a few lbs.
Do you really need to eat that donut?
Right. Yeah. Like, are you really going to eat that?
Seriously?
Are you actually hiding in the pantry eating a ho-ho? Like,
yeah,
like
that's probably not helpful. A ho-ho. I haven't heard of those for a long time.
Right. That's
I think mom used to I think moms used to throw those in our lunches.
we got the generic ones thrown in our lunches,
yeah.
But yeah, so but that's the furthest thing from softened startup. Whereas if I'm being genuine and my heart's in the right place, I'm probably going to approach it a little bit differently. And I'll give you another example, maybe in my own realm. Something that my wife has gotten really good at over the years is that when you know that I'm in recovery, and one of the things that she used to do is bring up a conversation and say, it would come in pretty hot and be like, I can't believe you did these things, or like da 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 da. And I was that guy. I was the question's husband. Like, I was like, boom, I disappear.
You're the crumbler, sensitive.
I shrink.
It's funny. I was talking to Lindsay, our sister, right before this, and I told her kind of the topic, and she's like, "Oh, that's a good one for us Patricks to talk about because we're very sensitive."
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And that's what I would give my wife. And so she'd bring me this thing, and I'd go, oh, I suck. You deserve somebody better. I'm never going to measure up for you. And then it would leave my wife holding this like struggle.
Yeah.
And she'd then feel like, wow, like he's not there to hear me. I don't matter. She'd walk away confused. Well, now over time, she's gotten better at bringing things up, and she'll say things like, hey, Tyler, I got something to share with you that I need you to kind of listen and provide some empathy for. If you're in a good spot, let me know. Or she'd say, hey, Tyler, instead of like, you suck at this, or like, you're terrible, or like, what, for being a therapist, you're a horrible listener. Like, like,
sounds like I've gotten that one before.
That in the past, but now it comes through a little differently most of the time, which says, hey, look, I really need you to pay attention to me for a minute, or I could really use your time, or I'm struggling because I don't feel very connected to you right now. And what she's doing is she's softening it up, which almost over time has become this way of calling me into the space with her, where she's like saying, and then in the past, when I would start to leave, she would say, hey, I don't need you to disappear right now. I need you to hang with me and just listen. And it was almost like this return to like a call to action.
Come on.
Get your prefrontal cortex going again. Get connected here. I'm not trying to attack you. I'm not trying to make like tell you you're stupid. Like, I just need you to be here.
Right. Going along with that, Tyler, I think right here's a good time to insert this tool. And it's such a basic tool with communication, and it's not using you statements. It's using I statements. And so if you go to somebody and you say, I'm worried that you're getting fat. I'm worried that you're gaining weight. I'm worried that you're eating that ho-ho in the pantry. It's you talking at them about them. And they're more likely to defend and push back because they feel attacked. Versus, I'm feeling like doing what your wife does. Like, hey, I need to have a conversation with you. And instead of her saying, Tyler, you did this, you did that, her saying, I'm feeling kind of frustrated or sad right now about this thing. Or this is kind of triggering some of my fear. And I just want to put it out there to you to let you know that this is where I'm at. Right. Mm-hmm. So she's still reflecting back to you her concern, her fear, her sadness, but she's doing it in a way where she's being vulnerable about her, which is less attacking to the partner, right? So it's really simple. Talk about you, not about them. Now you might be, some of our audience might be listening saying, yeah, but then you're just dancing around. You're dancing around the topic and you're not saying you are gaining weight. But is that really the topic?
That's not, well, I don't think that's the biggest issue. That's what happens with these kinds of conversations, though, is we get focused on the content part of it, which is gaining the weight, instead of the concern that I have for you, because I kind of want you to be around for a long time.
The topic is the concern.
And I want to be able to share some experience with you that we otherwise can't if you're not in the kind of shape to be able to go do those things. And I feel like, we'd be missing out. Like that's the actual concern, but it gets lumped into, man, you put on some LBs, man, you let yourself go.
And that's all that's heard. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay. Soft approach, I statements, not you statements. Do you have any others, Tyler?
Yeah. No. Yeah. You're good. So something else that I think you can kind of be preemptive with. And I try to do this sometimes in my own practice, and I appreciate it when people do it with me, is they'll say, like almost outright, they'll say, I can imagine this is going to be pretty hard for you to hear, or I know that this is hard for you to hear, and I understand that. It's almost like, to me, when I receive that, I go, okay, like soften your posture, Tyler, like open up to the possible criticism that might be coming here and see if there's something that you can learn from it. And when I'm given that little bit of extra warning, and it kind of goes along with the soft and startup, but it can be very just like straightforward. Like I need to speak something to you that I know isn't very fun to hear.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes that just helps to kind of lay the foundation for someone to say, okay, like I know what's coming now.
Yeah. I think going along with that, Tyler, as you say that, I think the partner might put up their guard a little bit when you say that. Like, okay, here it comes. Like, I'm ready for
the get the armor on.
Mm-hmm. The armor comes on. And what I'd say to that is, withstand the battle. So what I mean is, like, you might say, hey, I have something hard I need to talk to you about. You then say, I'm feeling concerned about your weight, and I love you. And I want to be more active with you, and I'm sad. And so here comes their, attack back or shut down. Mm-hmm. For you to be able to not get caught in the emotional mind and the drama of it. So here it comes, like, well, you're not in perfect shape yourself, like, or yeah, I'll never look good for you. Like I've always been told I'm fat, so I'll always be fat. Like I'll never look.
It's just who I am.
And so you kind of know that's coming, right? So what I'm saying is let it come. Like, okay, like there it is. It's okay. I'm going to stay true to what I intended to communicate. So you nod your head and say, yeah, you seem kind of upset by me bringing this up, and that's got to be hard. And what I want you to know is I'm concerned for you, and I love you, and I want to be more active with you, right? So the battle came. You don't fan the flames. You don't take the bait.
You don't get distracted into the shame itself.
And that's the point of the defensiveness is to distract. So I'll get defensive so we can go off about how horrible you are or how sad I am or how, and that's the point of the defensiveness. If you're a healthy, really good communicator, that defensiveness doesn't work on you. And one of the keys to it is for you to stay where your heart is not at war and stay in a place of that initial love and concern that you're bringing to the table. When your heart goes to war, you go nuclear with them, then it just causes other damage in the relationship, right?
Yes.
So
one thing I like about what you're saying, Brannon, and I think is helpful, is that if you, and this is the ability to see that it's hitting your partner's pain and acknowledge it, but stay the course, it's like a really good dialectic between acknowledging that there's something there and pushing through it, the thing that needs to be done. And what it does is it feeds into a principle here that when we have any type of an emotion, a painful emotion, emotions are these impermanent things that flow up and down. Shame is no different. If my emotion gets validated, it will decrease the emotion.
yes.
So if I see that my partner's in shame and I just validate it and say, I can see this is really hard for you. I know this is a ton of work for you. I'm instantly offering the opportunity for that to come down. At the same time, I'm still able to say, and I believe that you're capable of hearing me, and I know that you want to. So this is how I'm feeling, or this is what I'm needing, or whatever.
So you're reinforcing them. You're saying,
Mm-hmm.
I know you can do this. I believe in you, right? I can see your shames there. I know this is hard. And you're not shying away from the difficult topic at the same time. Yeah. Yeah, all good stuff. Another thing I want to add, Tyler, is, well, a couple nights ago, I had a conversation with my wife, and it was one of these conversations. It was a difficult conversation about a difficult topic. And I didn't do great at everything we're talking about. In fact, I kind of sucked it up a little bit. But I did okay. And I got to some of the places that we're talking about. Like I'd bring myself back and I noticed my emotional mind. I'd try to stay out of the drama. At the end of the conversation, I felt like we had talked through a lot of things, and it felt yucky. It felt like she was hurt. And I felt like I wasn't understood. But, and this is the point of me talking about this. I really don't like the whole don't go to bed mad at each other thing. Because we had just like kicked up the dust on something really uncomfortable and difficult. And I am comfortable with my wife being uncomfortable, and she's comfortable with me being uncomfortable, which is actually okay. So we have this difficult conversation. We're both feeling emotions. We sleep on it. We process it. We think about it. We get more to our wise mind. We even check it out with God spiritually. We really get clear on our truths and how we feel about this thing. And this difficult conversation that I had with her today, where we stand, which happens to be my 16th anniversary, that conversation I had 2 nights ago with her has led us to connection. It's led us to like her like really thinking through some of her own stuff and her thinking through who I am and vice versa. And so what I guess in a nutshell, what I'm trying to say is, when you feel that like, we just had a hard conversation about a hard topic and it feels yucky, it feels like not great, it doesn't mean that you failed. It doesn't mean that that wasn't productive. And it doesn't mean that it wasn't a good conversation for your relationship, right? Is that true?
Absolutely. By the way, what a great way to celebrate your anniversary, Brannon. Like,
hey, we're in a great place today. And one of the reasons why we're in a great place today is because I cleared up some resentment. And and she was able to know me better. And she feels more connected because she feels like I'm honest with her about hard things. So today is great. Like, we really are connected. She trusts me. And that wouldn't happen if I was terrified of her, or that wouldn't happen if she crumbled so bad that she couldn't hear anything that I was saying. Right.
I think you're bringing up a point that I just want to reiterate, because I see it so often. And it's this idea that if there's any discomfort or if there's any pain, that means I've done something wrong. And
so untrue.
Nothing could be further from the truth.
Yes.
And in fact, sometimes, whether it's a therapy session or a conversation with your partner or something, sometimes when you float something out there and then just let it settle, and you don't apologize for it, and you just let it sit, it causes this like wrestle to go on inside of the other person.
Yeah.
To go, is there any truth to that? Is there something that I need to look at here? And yeah, maybe my shame gets hit a little bit, but I'm gonna have to learn how to become shame resilient. And I'm gonna have to go figure this out. So I go to bed. You remember, Brannon, like, you remember what, in our Alaska retreat, and we did this exercise where we each gave each other feedback, and we participated in it with the guys that were there. And
you got some good feedback.
One of the guys got up. I had never met him before in my life. First day.
He was slicing and dicing you.
He just totally broke me down. He was like, Tyler, I see you as this kind of a person. Boom, boom, boom,
you do
boom,
this,
boom.
this. You treat me this way.
You treat other people this. He's like, just laid it out there. And as soon as he said that, I was so pissed at him. I was like, man, that guy's a total tool. Like, why do we invite him to come on this trip?
You're defensive.
I was so mad, so upset, but I put a smile on my face. I'm like, thanks, bro. Cause I had to, cause I'm the therapist, thanks, bro. I went to bed that night and I was stewing on it. I was just like wrestling with it. And I was just like angry and just bitter. And I slept on it. And I woke up the next morning and I thought, why am I so frustrated here? And the reason I was so frustrated was because somehow a total stranger had cut through every one of my masks and my facades.
Yeah.
And he had pierced right to the heart of where it was. And I felt vulnerable.
Yeah.
And he spoke truth. So I went in and found him the next morning sitting at the breakfast table, and I sat and had breakfast with him and told him thank you. And, like, haven't spoke to him since, but.
Right. But was that, so that whole exercise that we did that night was actually looking each other in the eye and saying some really difficult truths to each other about, and was that productive for you?
Oh, dude, it was, I felt selfish because I think I got more therapy than he did that week.
But that's just the point. I mean, the point you're making about pain is, pain in a relationship is actually a very good thing. Your partner is your best teacher. Your partner is the person who's going to push you and help you grow and reflect things back to you more than anybody else. And if you look at it that way, then it's this growth mindset in the relationship. It's, like, she has this issue, and instead of me making it all about her and she's crazy and she had, like, I really want to self-reflect here. What can I learn from this? She's kind of, her perspective is, she's giving it to me, and now it gives me a chance to kind of learn or grow from it. But we're talking about this as a partner who's not overly sensitive. Okay.
Right.
I want to get down to a part of this question that I think is important, which is, if you happen to be in a relationship with somebody who has a lot of trauma and a lot of shame, first off, I want to just empathize with you.
Yes.
That it's a lonely place to be, and it's really, really hard. It's not your job to fix that for them. And the relationship might get worse before it gets better. Because what I said in my Instagram post, right? Instead of walking on eggshells all the time, consistently stepping into some of these difficult conversations will push them. And it will push them to go to some of their deepest, darkest places. And they'll either come out on the other end, or they'll push away from you as far as they can, because they are so they feel so shamed by you, although you're not shaming them, right?
Yes.
But I guess what I'm saying is you can actually enable them to live in their trauma and their shame for the rest of their life, or you can be a catalyst through some of this conflict, through some of this hardship in the relationship, for them to self-reflect and look within. And that's by having these difficult conversations and not stop having them and resigning to their shame and their trauma, right?
Yes, and I think you could see this as like, this isn't going to be a one-time conversation. It's going to be multiple conversations, and it's funny because behind this question is another concern that often couples will bring up, and behind the question they'll say, "I don't want to shame them," but then they'll come back and they'll say, "Man, I just wish that they would like step up and be a man," or like, you know, like this and that and the other. And it's like, well, how are they ever going to learn to do that unless they're provided with an opportunity? So
Yeah.
I'm not saying you rationalize it in your mind and be like, I'm providing him with an opportunity by calling him fat
Yeah,
today.
yeah, but look at that. Look what you just said. I wish they'd step up and be a man, but I'm not going to go have a hard conversation with them because I believe they're so weak.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So what they end up doing is it's a term that we learn in therapy called fragilizing. They fragilize their partner, treat them as if they're so fragile, but then they're frustrated and resentful that their partner's fragile. And
Right.
it's like, no, the only way that that's going to change is through, it's like going to the gym. It's through repetitions. And
Right.
so I'm going to step into it, hopefully in my best self. And I'm going to know that I'm going to have that conversation probably over and over again for a time being. But that repetition.
What you're saying, Tyler, I think this is really important to understand. What you're saying is if your partner believes they're fragile, the answer to that is not you yourself to treat them and believe that they're fragile.
Yeah, don't confirm that.
Yeah, believe that they're powerful, and show up as if they're powerful, which means you're going to show up as if they can have these conversations.
You might even verbally say that to them.
Yeah,
say, hey,
I know you're powerful. I know you can handle this.
I know you can hold this.
You're strong enough here. You got this.
Mm-hmm.
We can do this. Not, well, I'll dance around it because you might get triggered and I'm scared because you're so fragile. Yeah. I think that's well put, Tyler. I mean, as much as like somebody's faulty core beliefs or limiting beliefs, you know, we always say, well, hey, like, don't live those beliefs, get out of those beliefs. But then we, the people in relationships with them, believe those things about them.
And treat them as such.
And then reinforce that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, but it's discomfort. It's discomfort to stay there and say like, no, I'm going to stay here. We can do this. We got this. So.
Right. Yeah. I say this quite frequently, but I really believe it, that when we're looking at like our relationships, say our marriages or whatever, especially our marriages, I believe that our marriages, your partner, Brannon, is the exact mirror that God has given you to be able to see all of your crap.
Oh, big time.
My wife is the perfect mirror, right? And maybe I don't like that she's so vocal about it sometimes, but she doesn't even have to be vocal. Like, the reason we're together is because she happens to reflect back to me all the things that I need to do to become a better man. And hopefully I'm doing the same thing for her, whether I know it or not. I probably am. That's what relationships are intended to be. And if we understand that, it doesn't, excuse me, it's not the Disney kind of love we're looking at here. We're looking at eternal progress. We're looking at growth. Like, we're looking at change. And as a couple, we get to offer one another maybe the biggest gift we possibly could by being willing to stand in that space and say, I'm here. I love you. I see your imperfections and I'm still here. And she gets to do the same for me.
Yep. I did this thing yesterday in group, and we talked about resignation versus iteration. So what we were saying is you can resign to how things are. You can give up. You can walk on eggshells, or you can create new iterations over and over again. You can go test things. You can try things. You can feel things. So as you're talking, your spouse is reflecting things back to you. They're your best teacher. if you keep stepping in with them, keep self-reflecting, feeling that conflict, you're growing. Your relationship's growing, and you individually are growing. You're not stunted. You're not resigned to this is how it is. Like, they're too sensitive. We can't have hard conversations. It's no, we're going to try it. And we're going to try it again and again and again. For the rest of our life, we're going to grow together. That's a healthy relationship. Have you ever done a Byron Katie Love Your Neighbor worksheet?
I'm doing them in like 3 or 4 of my groups right now, and it's like rocking all other worlds.
Oh, it rocks. Do one about your spouse. I think everybody needs to do one about their spouse. So go Google Byron Katie Love Your Neighbor worksheet. And it will help you see that you're actually reflecting so much of your own stuff onto them, and it's not about them. It really is about you and your growth. So go check it out.
And Brannon, when you say that in the most empowering way possible. You're not shaming whoever you just told to go get on and do that worksheet. You're saying, when you realize that a lot of what's going on in your life is about you,
yes,
it gives you a chance to go and start working on those things.
You're no longer the victim.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think lastly, Tyler, I just want to say this. I get the question sometimes. I think it goes along with these questions is, should I like push them to go to therapy? Should I tell them they need to, or like,
should I have a green smoothie waiting for him when he is headed out the door for work?
Yeah, exactly. And not say anything, but just give him the green smoothie.
Don't say anything. Or
I'll buy the exercise bike and put it in the basement ready to ride.
And I'll just lay out the exercise clothes by his bed.
So the stuff we're saying, this is my opinion. Absolutely, that doesn't really help much.
No.
However, I do think it's okay to nudge. It's okay to kind of like, for example, let's say I was struggling with something and I was going to an awesome therapist, right? For me to say to my wife, I see her struggling with something and say, man, like, I'm going to this awesome therapist. It would be like, you should go check them out. Like it could be really helpful for you too, Now she might take that personally. She might not like that. But if my heart is really just intended to like, hey, I want to help you. I want to support you. This is working for me. Like, check it out. Or, hey, I read this Instagram post and I followed this guy, or like, and it's good content. Like, you should see this or listen to this podcast or whatever. I don't think there's anything wrong with, let me kind of show you the things that are resonating with me that I think might be helpful for you. Right.
Sure. Because I love you. Right.
Because I love you, not because I'm trying to change you and force you.
But you can in the tone of your voice, you can hear the difference between, hey, I just bought an exercise bike and just throw it in the throw it in the living room for you. Versus
I'll never use it. I bought it.
Right, exactly. Versus like, hey, I'm kind of feeling like I kind of want to get in shape myself, and I think it might not hurt if we got a bike, and you might want to use it too. And like the tone is different. The tone is like, it's like I actually think that sometimes people think we counsel them not to share enough. And I do think it's okay to give that nudge to say, hey, look, like, would you like me to make you a green smoothie on the way out? I'm making one for myself already.
Absolutely. Right? Don't shy away from that.
Yeah. Okay. That's totally
why
fine.
Do you want to let me say, well, why do you want to make me a green smoothie?
It's like, okay, good one. It's why do you want to make me a green smoothie? Because I think you're fat. No, like, no. Right? No, it's me like, well, I was just making a green smoothie for myself, and I figured you might want one.
You're not being honest, Tyler.
What's that?
You're not being honest.
Okay.
I think you could say, like, I want you to be healthy.
Yeah,
I care about you. I want you to be healthy. I want to be healthy for me too.
I care about you. I care about your health. I'm trying to be healthy myself. There it is.
Right. Something you don't have to say you're fat, and you also don't have to be like, no. I just made one for me anyway. So like, you just don't tiptoe around it. Like, I want you to be healthy. That's why I offered you a green smoothie.
Yeah.
Because I love you.
And you don't have to take one. Like,
yeah, take it or leave it.
You can still say no. Yeah.
Right. But I do care that you're healthy. So I made extra for you.
Right.
Yeah. So You know, I keep saying the last thing, but one more thing. The best way to, I think, nudge and like help your partner change and influence them is by your example. You know, if you're saying they're too defensive, then you really practice not showing up defensive. Like, be a powerful partner who can have hard conversations. If you're saying they're too fat, and it's like, well, like, you don't really exercise or eat well, you know, and so, like, you're not resonating in good health, but you're kind of whining and complaining about their bad health. Just setting an example of like, look, I believe in this thing, and so I'm going to show up this way as an individual in my integrity, and that's going to influence them to either do that and come along with you, or they'll shy away and push away even further, right?
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And I would say that the greatest power of influence in the world is love, but love doesn't mean enabling, and it doesn't mean backing down.
Yes.
Love means making sure that you are showing up in your truth in order to offer that to the people around you.
Absolutely. Okay, you guys, we really hope these conversations that Tyler and I are helpful. Hopefully this will push you into having a hard conversation tonight. Maybe we caused a lot of fights today, Tyler.
Hopefully we caused plenty of conflict. Go to bed angry at each other. That's fine. Let it settle and find the truth.
And grow and get new iterations in your relationship. So share this if this was helpful. And please leave us some ratings and reviews. And last thing is, go to Therapy Brothers and ask us a question, or let us know if you want to come on as a guest.
Thanks, guys.